Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Calvin.
Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Always good to talk to you. Always good to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I know. At least we didn't have to pick our children this time. Our favorite
No,
children.
that was a hard episode. I'm glad
That
we're
was
back to just some plain old news.
Yeah, we can pick other people's children. No, that one's pretty. Cool. You
Well,
ready?
not going to touch that.
No, I'll leave that. That's why we're just jumping in.
Yep.
We're done. We're going to be in trouble if we go farther.
Sounds good.
Hello and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 486, recorded June 30th, 2026. I'm Michael Kennedy.
And I'm Calvin Hendricks Parker.
This episode is brought to you by us. Check out 6 Feet Up if you want not just a consulting partner, but an impactful consulting for good partner. And if you're looking to get better at Python, data science, AI, check out Talk Python Training. I have 3 courses in the works right now, which is interesting. So there's going to be a lot of new stuff. So be sure to either keep listening here where I'll tell you about it, or sign up over there. And speaking of signing up, pythonbytes.fm. Click on the newsletter. You can sign up there and get notifications every week, as well as follow us on social media. We got all of the links for the show, Calvin and me. Now, Calvin, your first item is something that has been sitting in a browser tab on my computer for at least 3 days. I'm like, I need to read this. Come on now. And I haven't gotten to it, so I'm really happy you're going to take care of that for me.
Well, how could you not mention this? There was a talk at PyCon 2026, and it's a perennial talk that has probably happened for the last 2 decades, starting with Larry Hastings. I didn't go look up exactly what year he started doing the Galectomy project, but the idea is find free threading in Python, past, present, and future. So there's been a lot of discussion in the past. Like I said, there's over 2 decades of history going into solving this problem. This gets back into Python and the global interpreter lock and what we've done in the past to try and improve performance. So for those who are kind of new to Python, that a global interpreter lock really makes it difficult to run a single Python process and leverage multiple cores in your computers. But every modern computer today has how many, even the Raspberry Pis have many cores in them. So this would be a huge boost, we think, to Python to be able to take advantage of more computing power going on inside those CPUs. So basically the GIL has prevented this true multi-threaded parallelism in CPython since the very beginning. There's been multiple attempts. Many of them have failed on performance grounds. Once you remove this global interpreter lock, that overhead of managing I/O, memory, etc., all the pieces going back and forth usually adds in 100% or more additional performance load than giving you the performance you'd think you'd get by leveraging multiple CPUs. We got free threading in Python 3.13 was experimental, and so it's still a 20 to 40% single-threaded slowdown. 3.14 brought that from kind of 0 to 10%. So look for Python 3.15 coming in October to deliver basically a unified story here. They've made a huge amount of progress here. During the talk, it's interesting because this always brings out the OG Pythonistas, the core developers in the room for these kinds of talks. Actually, one of the members of our team was in that talk at PyCon. Larry Hastings got up to the mic, and Thomas Wooters, basically, they both kind of played off each other on how this all came about. And the punchline was the things that made this possible didn't exist when Larry was trying to do this. So there's been a ton of development and innovation in the Python core to make this all go. The big part about this is now that we're going to have a unified ABI. So basically the interfaces into using this free threading is going to be more unified, which means the same extension binaries, like if you're writing C extensions, can work both on the GIL and on free threaded builds. And looks like already greater than 50% of the PyPy binary wheels support free threading. So that's a huge, the top PyPy binaries, not all of them, but
Yeah.
of the major ones, we've already got half adoption. I think that's a huge boost. I think there was a prediction made from the stage that free threaded may become the default version of Python, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, excellent.
So have you followed along with this GIL story, Michael? Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, everyone has
I
them.
love, I love at least having the capability to do threading. I would love to see, this kind of seamlessly integrated into async IO. I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
reading a Reddit post about somebody who was hating on async IO, async and await in particular, and I'm like, no. It might not be the cleanest, easiest programming model in the world, not Python in particular, but just in general. But it's better than managing a bunch of threads or processes or,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's I think it's really quite neat and lightweight. But its big
But I think,
limitation is as soon as you get anything computational, boom, like the whole thing stops, right?
yeah.
And so if you could just say, put a decorator onto a function like CPU bound or something, or somehow, kick it off with some kind of, computational thing, but clearly like just await, make that awaitable in the same event loop, that would be awesome.
Yeah. No, this is a really good article from the Linux Weekly News. Really in-depth coverage by Jake on this. So I highly recommend folks who are interested in history and what the future is going to be, check this out because we're finally going to have free threading in Python.
Awesome. So if you were running like a Django site, I don't know, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool to, I don't know, search your admin site in the
What?
same way that you do
No, Michael.
like like really nice, say, Visual Studio Code? You can hit Shift Command P for your command palette, or in Vivaldi you can just hit Command K and you could say, I don't know, copy all the links on the page by just typing a thing or two. So thanks to Adam Parkin, I introduce Django admin site search, and it's quite a slick thing. It's fairly new. Could use some more stars, so there, got one more.
In real time.
In real time. Yeah, so you just hit Command K like I just did in Vivaldi. And by the way, if you do Vivaldi, you might need to remap one or the other, but whatever. And then it brings up this nice search. People are probably familiar with this with some of the docs, like the great docs have this and lots of others. But the idea is that it's really deeply integrated into understanding what your Django needs. So there's a little animated video here. As, by the way, everyone out there building this, if you're building something specifically to do with UI, it at a minimum needs a screenshot. I've seen like entire like website design frameworks that have had like zero pictures. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like the words sound good, but pictures, people.
They'll resort to interpretive dance before they'll put a screencast in.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is it just works out of the box, basically very little config. It's when you type something into it, it searches app labels, model labels, and fields, and model instances. And what's cool about it is it can search in two different ways. So for smaller sites or sort of ad hoc searches, it will run a dunder icon, not a dunder, underscore-underscore-I contains, which is any part of this text I've typed contained within here without regard to case, right? That's cool, but that's not always indexed, right? I mean, not every single field has an index for these sorts of things. So that can be slow on large projects. So you can also tell it, use the model admin's get search results method, which can be an indexed query. That's cool, right?
That's super cool. This is super nice. I've seen a couple of people doing work on the admin. This is a much needed feature.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. It has built-in auth, so users can only search apps and models that they have permissions to view. Results appear on type. It's active search, I guess, is the way you would describe it. And keyboard navigation. So obviously Command K, like I said, you might need. It's a good one. Oh, you know what? I think I think that's the default in Chrome. I'm trying to figure out if that is which one is it. I may have changed it. I think maybe Command E is the default on Vivaldi for its command palette, but it's layers of command palettes you might have to battle with. Anyway, it supports all the way back to 3.8. They don't even care if Python supported. They're going to support it. And Django 3.2 to 6. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Super easy to add in. Not a lot to do there, but it's customizable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I mean, as a Django developer, that's definitely a missing piece because I feel like it's like the old days of the internet where there was no search and you had to always know where to browse to find the things in the admin console.
Yeah.
Whew, this is going to save a lot of people a lot of time, especially if you got a larger Django app and you've got hundreds of models in there. Like this
Yeah.
is going to be a lifesaver.
And some people use the admin section for like all the admin or staff of the Django site, not
I don't
just
recommend
developers.
that, but
I don't know. I don't naturally either, but people do, and so having this to navigate it, I think, would be good, right?
True. In a last minute crunch when you're trying to triage something, that admin is indispensable.
I guess it depends, though. Is this an internal company app that 20 people use and 3 people admin?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
how serious you got to take that
Yeah.
versus Instagram. Like,
Right.
I bet it's not admin through the admin.
We should find out. We should get some inside news into whether they use the admin or not.
What if it is? They're like, no, you should see ours. Ours is amazing.
Well, I can tell you right now, someone's going to mention it in the comments. They're going to call us out.
Let's do it. We could ask an AI about it, probably. A local AI.
And local AI, actually, this is really exciting. I have been certainly on the bleeding edge of local AIs for quite some time, running them on my framework desktop here. And then I've always managed to try and buy a MacBook Pro with the Apple Silicon and embed as much memory as I can afford. And so being able to run these local models has been mostly an experiment up to this date. Gemma 4 has gotten really good. Some of them have, Mistral Dev and DevStral have been really interesting for live coding agents. But this article that came across my feed today, multiple people in the company actually posted this, which is Quinn 3.627b is the sweet spot for local development. So there's a couple models that just got released in the Quinn family of open weights models. There's also a quantized version of it and a multi-token prediction version of this model out there, which gets some pretty blazing speed. On his M5 MacBook Max, he was getting 32 tokens per second with the 8-bit quantized version of it. But if you run the 4-bit quantization, you can actually run it on a 32 gigabyte or less MacBook machine, and you get pretty blazing speeds. I think he puts a chart in here on the bottom. But the nice bit about this article is he compares the various models, what they're capable of inside the same family, and actually gives you a whole how-to on how to hook this up using Llama CPP and OpenCode. And so you can actually rebuild the demos that the author wrote here. So using OpenCode, hooked it up and then wrote up a Minesweeper app, and then again went into some depth on the performance metrics here. So you can see the 3635B A3B model on the Apple MLX, 85 tokens per second running with that model. That is incredibly usable. But the real sweet spot for the development was using Llama CPP and getting 32 tokens per second using about 42 gig of RAM. So if you've got a 64 gig machine, this is absolutely doable for developers that are out there today, and felt like it was, this is not going to be like mind-blowing for anyone who's already using frontier level models like Opus and Sonnet and GPT-5.5 codecs to do code, but this is local. Everything stays on your machine. The data never leaves. It's tool using, so there's still a risk. You're using models that have been trained by foreign nations, and who knows what's going on inside of these things. But this one seems to be gaining a lot of traction and actually producing, I don't think it's Mythos level yet, but we're only, maybe 6-9 months behind on open weights models that I can run myself. So this looks really good. The interesting thing he also pointed out in the article was, and I wasn't aware of it, I've been an Llama user for quite some time, and I think I'm going to be switching to the Llama CPP version of it. There's been some authorship and IP concerns between the two groups that I wasn't aware of, and I feel like to be responsible, I should switch over to using that. Or I'm considering VLLM on my framework desktop so that I can run multiple models simultaneously and have multiple instances of the same model running, so that, for example, my home assistant can have multiple people in the house make requests simultaneously. So This is pretty exciting. I've not tried 3.6. I have 3.5 currently running on my desktop at the moment, and that has been impressive from a Home Assistant standpoint. I've not used it for much of my coding agents, but I'm going to give 3627B a real shot I've been using, again, Pi, still my daily driver. There was a new release of superpowers since our last episode that has made the Pi experience a lot more user-friendly and smooth, so check that out with Quinn 3.6.
This is really neat. One thing is, can you pull up that speed
Yeah.
chart again so I can?
Mm-hmm.
I love how they have like a heat, the
Right.
heat picture.
It's definitely going to heat up your laptop if you're using these tools.
What surprises me on Mac OS is that MLX is the slowest.
Yeah, no, I was surprised at that too. I think he mentions it down here in the text. RTX, consumer RTX, if you've got enough VRAM on that card, that is the way to go if you're serious about running these models, I believe. But just the standard Llama CPP plus MTP with that quantized version, 105 tokens per second.
That's plenty fast.
32 tokens per second is plenty fast for doing code dev where you're in it, you're reviewing, you're using it as a true assistant, and you're not trying to just vibe code away an app.
Another takeaway that when I see anything like this, and definitely a cool topic, is I don't know what percentage of people it is out there. Maybe I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I think that there's certainly a strong contingent of people out there who want AI to go away or think the bubble's going to burst and it's just not worth getting into or paying attention to. Like, I know OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever, the whole thing is just going to go up like in a smoking dumpster fire in 6 months. So why would I change the way I work and melt my brain and whatever else people say about it? This stuff is not going away. Right. This is on GitHub, right?
Right.
This is it.
And Hugging Face, the models are published on Hugging Face. This is open source and published. I say open source. I shouldn't say open source. They're open weights. Some of the models are fully open source, but this is sustainable, maintainable, and a level of usefulness that is undeniable. There's hypesters on both sides of that equation. The answer lies in the middle, and the answer really is that these tools are great amplifiers of your existing skills. So if you're already good at the software development lifecycle, these things make you better. If you're not good at it, these things can make you worse.
Exactly. You have no idea? That's called vibe coding.
Right. Let's all be realistic about what this is all about.
Yeah, and I'm also jealous of your framework. So,
side note, Apple raised their prices this week on MacBook Pros. I went and double checked, and framework had raised their prices too. So the same 128 gigabyte machine is like about $600 or $700 more than it was a year ago.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have a. I was going to start this episode with a good morning everyone. At Apple, we've been so honored and proud to have fleeced you on RAM and in VVM that today we're taking it to an entirely new level. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So the price is like,
you're going to be excited, Michael.
Oh boy, let me tell you what we're going to bring on Calvin to show you what we've built. And boy, is that expensive. No, like seriously, just really quick, follow up on the sidebar. Like I think my MacBook Pro 16-inch, which I just received. I bought it a little bit before because it took a while, but just got 2 weeks ago, something like that. I think it went up $800.
Yeah, I luckily I bought two in preparation for this prior to the rise in price. So I just saved myself $1,600.
That's awesome. There's some guy math we could do.
There's totally some guy math going on here. All right, well, we're going to spend it on.
Exactly. Let's talk about, we're going to spend it on motorcycles, Calvin. You know what we're going to spend it on. We're absolutely going to spend it on motorcycles. So I would like to tell people about what might be the largest single PEP except finalization in one batch ever. I'm not that much of a...
That sounds exciting.
It sounds exciting. It's more that's weird. Interesting. So, all-in-one one go, I believe these are right PEPs. I think I might be off by one. Anyway, it's basically 668, 687, 691. There's like 10 PEPs or something that went to final just all at one shot. But then when you look at them carefully, so I linked to the 11, yeah, it's 11 files changed. I linked to the commit that did all this, and so you'll see things like, if we expand it here, the diff is not always perfect. PEP 668, making Python-based environments externally managed. But if you go over and you check out PEP 668, which is here, it was created May 2021.
Some house cleaning.
Now, theirs are like 2023 and so on. So what had happened here, I forgot who did the switch. I guess I could probably look at the commit. Zero intensity, which is Peter. Didn't really need to click on that. In fact, that was useless. Peter Bierma, core developer, did all this. And what it really is there have been all these PEPs that were sitting in accepted but not final. And accepted means, accepted. Final means it's shipping. But clearly, the one that was out and accepted and final in 2021 is out. So there's just a bunch of PEPs, 11 in particular, that were just hanging around and never, ever got moved to final. For some reason, reasons, I don't know.
So someone was not a completionist.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Someone's like, oh, we're going to get all the little badges, baby. All the badges need to be put on here. Yeah. So, for example, this one is 2022, October 2022, and so on. So I just think this is kind of interesting. And if people have been looking at these older PEPs and going like, wait, why is this not final? Why is it just accepted? Well, you called it out, not completionist.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, it's nice to see those all cleaned up so that at least there's a canonical source of the truth here.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Agree. Bit of comment out in the audience here. We've got Pixel says, like the sentence, it makes you worth if you don't know the software cycle. Because I saw people during vibe coding and they're happy, but they didn't know what it actually makes them worth. Yeah, it's interesting.
Very, very true statement.
Yeah, and also being a subject matter expert combined with some coding skills is absolutely
100%.
It does make being a generalist a little more useful.
Yeah,
not exclusively, but also.
I finally come into my own, being the journalist that I am.
Yes, exactly. Me too. I'm like, my time is here. It's incredible.
It's incredible. All the things. Well, I've just find myself building so much more stuff now. Like, I know the patterns I wanted to get done, and it was just a lot of busy work that I didn't feel like doing, but now I can make those tools super quick. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And yeah, big fan. And if it's like, well, if it took me 2 hours, this is worth it. If it took me 2 weeks, it's not worth it. Like,
totally.
Now it takes you 2 hours? Yes.
That's absolutely the math.
All right. And you can power it out of your framework in the basement. Okay.
That's true.
So let's go and jump into extras.
Yes.
And I already got my screen up, so I'll just grab the first one here.
Go for it.
So I wrote a blog post inspired by a guy named Pedo who had reached out to us because you and I both were a fan talking about how PLS instead of LS is quite cool.
It is quite cool.
It is quite cool. You can go and when you LS on something, if you alias it, although that has some drawbacks, it uses color for like hidden file, like GitHub is shown if you LS, even though it's technically hidden, but it uses color to show that it's like git ignored. It shows symlinks, which is really cool. And I've learned how to create a symlink in Git. So when you check it out, it symlinks onto a new machine, which is always fun. Uses icon. All this stuff is super cool. But Pedo pointed out something is weird with installing this package. If you click on the PyPI link, it says version 6. But some of the links, 404, which is kind of weird. But then if I actually go and click on, say, the repository, it takes me to the Rust-based ones. I'm like, oh, this must be the Rust one. Because when I go to the PyPI and I click on the repo, it goes to the Rust one. He points out, no, that's the Python one. And I'm like, wait a minute, is there something sus going on with this thing? And he inspired me to dig into it. So what is going on is GitHub is redirecting to the newer version when you click on it, but PyPI actually installs a frozen 2023 version. So I wrote this really short article.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I know. I didn't either, because everything about it like redirects to the one that you think you're going to want, but it's not. So anyway, it talks about like, okay, did you install this with UV or pipx or somehow pip install? If you did, you're getting the old frozen in place slower one that you think is not what you're getting, but that's what you're getting. And here's how to actually install it with.
Well, I'm going to go do that.
Yes, exactly. So I wrote a really short write-up about this. What the PLS? What the PLS? Come on now. All right, Calvin.
Well,
over to you.
If you think that makes your command line glamorous, I've got something for you.
You're going to crush it?
We're going to remember your first crush. This, I mean, because the command line was probably my first crush, if I'm going to be honest out there. And if you want your command line to look absolutely beautiful and glamorous, there's a library out here called Charm that can do all kinds of fun extensions. So forms, and it's got interfaces to build inside there with like SSH animations, physics-based animations, get the bubble tea component for your toolkit. So you should definitely check out it's charm.land to add some fun bling to your terminal. So if you think if PLS was just the start, oh my goodness, Charm you're gonna be busy, Michael, going down the rabbit hole.
Dang it. I was just starting to work on some projects, and now here I am.
Yep.
rebuilding my terminal prompt again.
Yep, it looks pretty cool. So I've not checked it out. I think the open code folks may be using some of this, but yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. So if you want to go bling your terminal, this is the way to do it. And
but it's not very popular, is it?
No, not at all. 213,000 stars over on GitHub. Not bad. Pretty cool. Add some fun to your terminal. The other bit, and I kind of already alluded to this, was building a fully local voice assistant in 2026 using Python. So this actually is a Raspberry Pi friendly version. As for those of you who are following along at home, I've been doing the more ridiculous version with like a RTX 3070 running my voice models on a giant graphics card. This runs on a Raspberry Pi. A couple different models he mentions here in the articles with the full architecture and how to set it all up and how to get it going. And you can even run it on old Raspberry Pis. So there's a 40 meg model, the small 015 version.
Meg.
Yeah, megabyte. Megabyte.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Inaccurate, but it will run on one of those. So if you've got
So it's like Siri, basically.
Yeah. Wow. Shots fired.
This is it's default failure mode. This is what I found on the internet.
Yeah. But you can see even the largest one, 1.8 gig, you can even run that on probably the largest of Raspberry Pis that are out there, or just on a CPU and not have to use a full-blown GPU to run your voice pipeline. This is part of the Platypush platform, which is not necessarily a competitor to Home Assistant, but is like Home Assistant in that you can glue together Zigbee and Wi-Fi IoT devices and all those kinds of things inside your house. So I just thought that was really interesting because it's on my list of things to keep up to date on, which is I want to replace all the ladies in the box in my house, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's what I got.
What about something? You're a Docker person.
I am.
And you've done a lot of local Docker. I'm more of a server Docker. One of the things I think would be really cool, like it'd be so easy to set this into an always auto starting unless stopped sort of Docker thing. But at least on Mac OS, can you give it access to like the GPUs or NPUs? You know what I mean? Because it's basically Linux within Mac OS, which is not exactly the same.
I have not
you know what I mean?
tried the GPU on Docker with Mac OS. I am using this I've installed Proxmox onto the AMD box downstairs that has the CUDA card in it, the 3070 card. And in that one, you absolutely can pass with Proxmox the GPU drivers, and you just have to make sure you get the CUDA drivers installed. Proxmox doesn't come with them out of the box, but you can install them onto Proxmox. And once you do, you can pass through either shared access or dedicated access to the containers. I'm using containers to run all my voice assistant stuff on the Proxmox.
Sweet. Okay.
So that is absolutely possible on Linux, and Proxmox makes it just stupid easy to do.
Nice. Yeah, I have this nice Mac Mini M4 Pro sitting around. I would love to just fire these things up, but all the stuff that requires sort of some acceleration, it's like 10 times slower. Maybe I don't really want it that much.
Well, since I had that RTX that was donated by my child to me, I was like, I'll use that because it's going to be the fastest tokens per second, but it's only an 8 gigabyte VRAM. So whatever I can fit into that 8 gig goes very fast.
Yeah, perfect. All right, let's finish this up with a joke. So this one comes to us from Jeff Triplett.
This one's good.
Have you seen this?
I have seen this.
Okay, beautiful.
The team's been talking about it.
Yeah, it's well, I think you all should adopt this for your projects.
We totally should.
I mean, look, a lot of times people create this kind of little not so easy to understand thing as a way to like get repeat business or to not. You can't fire me. I'm the only one that knows how the what goes.
And CSS was already crystal clear with how to author it.
Indeed. So what we get here is a legit CSS framework called Bemoji. It's the CSS framework that your team will actually argue about. And so here's what's going on with this is why waste all the characters
Right.
when you could have something much more, discoverable or understandable with emojis.
Right. I mean, this totally makes sense. I'm here for it.
So if I just don't even know. So for example, you might want to talk about like a hero image and you want to stylize it. So you would say Joker emoji __ picture frame emoji. And like a lot of the utility classes, you would need to like specialize that. So you would say Joker emoji __ picture emoji -- star because this is your hero.
The hero.
And then there's the editable part, which is Joker emoji __ notepad editor if you want to have a little card, like a written card, and then Joker __ ABCD for the title, and Joker __ quote emoji for a description bit, so on.
The footer's the best.
Okay, the footer. Where's the footer?
Oh, right there. The class is Joker __ foot emoji.
Oh, there it is. Yes, it's literally the foot emoji. What is I guess the disabled is a ghost.
Yeah.
Put a ghost emoji.
I mean, it's obvious. You read that, you know exactly what's going on, Michael.
Yes, I guess you do. Once you learn to speak the emoji, got the block, got the element. Oh, it's so good. You want a link? You just put a link emoji on it. Anyway, I'm not sure that I'm going to be adopting this. I've already done a couple major framework remodels, so
I put it on our tech radar.
Yeah, it's going to be important. I mean, you got to stay on top of what's coming in the industry, and sometimes it's a ghost emoji. I think that's a good place to leave it, Calvin.
That is a good place. I love it.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks. See you later.
See ya.